Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Now, let's imagine you're in Italy. It's summer and you can feel the sun on your skin. You cross a field of cereals. Look around you. It feels like you walk in a field of gold, almost ready to be harvested. Along the field, you notice a beautiful row of hedges, which protect the land from the wind. They are also providing shelter to flora and fauna. And whilst you look a bit further away in the distance, you all of a sudden see a big rabbit who is staring you right in the face. She seems very comfortable in her surroundings and is taking her time to sniff around before she disappears behind some flower strips. You walk further and you leave the small plot of cereals and you pass through an amazing corridor of trees and hedges. The sun is shining through the trees and a small breeze gently guides you forward down the path. All of a sudden, there is a movement in the tree nearby, and you see how a big bird of prey is setting off and then circles above the plot of cereals you have just left. You are flabbergasted with this abundance of wildlife and go up completely in a moment. Even so much so that you almost fall over in a pond that just showed up whilst you were passing the field of rapeseed. Amazing! Also here it's full of life, sheltering frogs and ducks, and on the side there are flower strips that attract a lot of pollinators. All the sounds come alive, and for a moment it feels you are a part of an outdoor concert. There is a little seat near the pond, with a separate area for a number of beehives. Of course you don't come too close, because as it's very warm outside, the bees are very active and buzzing around. It really seems that they know what they're doing. Absolute structure and agility whilst working with so many at the same time. You reflect and pause for a moment. You think, this is why they must be called the engineers of biodiversity. They pollinate, but they also manage to work together so smoothly. Whilst you're looking out over the fields and you see another soy field next to you from the rapeseed field, you decide to sit down for a moment next to the pond. And whilst you close your eyes, you take in all the sounds and smells. Listen carefully to the heartbeat of life.
And now you can slowly open your eyes and come back into the room. So which sound do we prefer? Is the question. The birds that you heard the beautiful sounds. These sounds were actually live from one of our farms in La Goccia in Italy. So this is what can happen if you support biodiversity. Or do we go for cutting down things, using heavy pesticides? I know the answer that you're going to give me, of course. We're all here in the room, and I know you're all committed to our cause. But actually, it's sad to see that because of the heavy pesticide usage by most of the conventional farmers, and also because of the agricultural practices, and Dan was talking about the fast monocultures that we created as part of the Green Revolution, we have lost over 80% of our insects. Half of our butterflies disappeared in the past decade in Europe, and the population of countryside birds have fallen by 1/3. That is significant. And we're going ahead to the 6th mass extinction, as you have heard on the many COPs and the many conversations and conventions that we had. So none of that is relatively new. But the only way to move forward is to start acting on this. And I'm very pleased to be part of a group of people as part of Ecotone who actually take their responsibility as a business and try to move things in the right direction. And it is so true and so integrated in our mission statement on food for biodiversity.
So to turn around this huge loss in biodiversity, we absolutely need to change the game in terms of food production and consumption. And that's exactly what our mission is all about. Protecting, growing, and cherishing biodiversity, that's our job. We are a purpose-driven company. And in October 2020, we officially achieved the French status of Société à Mission, recognizing our commitment to social and environmental impact and not just financial gain. The Food for Biodiversity is our mission, and we are really making the difference by putting biodiversity on the menu. In fact, our food system is broken. I'm sure you know that. The way we consume and the way we produce food is the biggest driver of the loss in nature. And it's also a significant contributor to climate change and deforestation. Indeed, our food causes 70% of terrestrial, so it's horrible to pronounce for a French girl, terrestrial biodiversity loss, and it also accounts for 1/3 of global CO2 emission in the world. It's the second biggest sector after the energy production. And it is also responsible for 80% of the deforestation in the world. So basically, our global food system, relying on intensive farming, intensive breeding, and the massive use of chemicals, is destroying life and their habitats. But at Ecotone, we strongly believe that we don't need to destroy life to feed humankind. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we're challenging the food industry, offering healthy and delicious food that is organic, plant-based, and that champions biodiversity.
Yeah, you've seen that already coming back in Dan's slide. Thank you for Dan for including that. For us, it of course starts with no chemicals, organic production. Today, we're roughly around 80%, as we all know, in terms of organic, and we try to aim for 90% organic by 2030. This has been consistently part of our agenda for the past decades. Also, let's not forget that beyond organic, there's other very important pillars that help to hack the food system. Plant-based meals and dairy alternative is a very other important element to help consumers change their habits, and with that, improve biodiversity and climate. The other element, you just heard some beautiful stories from Dan on fighting food standardization. My God, what have we lost? An enormous amount of species of crops. And it seems that we didn't learn anything from it until the moment that we actually extinct a species altogether. Take the banana example. Now all of a sudden we can't eat bananas anymore because we wanted to make it convenient for ourselves and for human mankind to have just one species. Well, surprise, surprise, they will come back to you. And then above and beyond organic farming, I was very pleased, and Emily will share some great stories from some of the farms, but to visit a number of our farmers who are working every day to work above and beyond organic on a set of agricultural practices. And we come back to that in a moment. And finally, as Renaud already mentioned just now, we have the Ecotone Foundation, for now mainly focused on France, but we're going to expand that in 24 into Europe. And every year, we're managing a specific set of projects that help to restore biodiversity. So the solution to restore biodiversity and with that help to maintain the climate challenges is the combination of both organic and plant-based. And there are some very staggering facts here, for example, the fact that organic production will boost biodiversity by 30%. With that, 300,000 chemical treatments are avoided. But on the plant-based, for example, did you know that drinking a vegetable drink is 90 times less CO2 versus regular milk? Or with a plant-based menu that we offer, we avoid 75,000 CO2 emissions, which is basically taking your car and going around the world 8,000 times. Yeah? Those are staggering facts that we can contribute directly by changing your food habits and your menu. So we made the choice to go organic and plant-based, and we've already done that for 3 decades, guys, so let's not forget about that. We have been pioneering since the start, even when people didn't even know anything about some of these points that we're discussing here.
And the choice we made 30 years ago is now evident. But then same goes with the commitment we are making today. So today we are pioneer again. We're shaking up the food industry for the better and leading the way for the future of sustainable food with 2 unique commitments that are really specific to Ecotone. Now you know that organic agriculture is vital for protecting biodiversity. But also, if we want to turn around this huge loss in biodiversity, we need to promote even more biodiversity, so we need to go one step further. And that's why today we are committed to develop advanced farming practices that go beyond the organic standard, to foster even more biodiversity, even more wildlife in and around agriculture areas. Here are basically the 3 key pillars, elements that really support our missions. The first one is what experts call semi-natural habitats. It's basically flower strip, grass strip, hedges. All these things are provided food and shelter for wildlife. It's a kind of bed and breakfast for wildlife on field. The second one is to really do the exact opposite of monoculture, is to diversify culture at maximum, to diversify crops, and specifically in the south, to develop rich agroforestry system that mixes trees and culture together. And the third one is to not let the soil unprotected. It's to really use cover crop to protect and increase the life underground. So we're really committing to increase biodiversity in the field, but not only in the field, also in our food, because it was mentioned by Dan, but 2/3 of what we eat today is coming only from 9 overconsumed plant species. So only 9 plant species to fill the whole world. And 3 of these, so rice, wheat, and corn, are providing 50% of all calories. So this is not just only providing a pretty poor diet, it impoverishes taste, nutrients, and ultimately crop and plant diversity. So that's why we are standing against the food standardization, and that we're committed to diversifying ingredients and plant species in our recipes to really increase the diversity of taste, nutrients, and plants. And just one, yes, just before open your eyes, all those practices contribute to create an abundance of nature. At the end, it's more a bird, it's more butterfly, it's more beetles, it's more white flower, it's more plant, and it also contributes to create a beautiful environment for us too. So please open your eyes and look carefully at what we are doing in the field. So here we are in one of our oat fields in Germany. You have Harald, it's one of our farmers on the left, who is cultivating a wide variety of cereals and pulses, such as barley, oat, spelt, peas, on really small plots, and each plot is separated from the other one with wide flower strips and also edges that are welcoming birds and pollinators. Here it's a bit different. We are in the Nilgiri Hills. It's one of the highest tea plantations of the world. And here the landscape is completely different from what we used to see in intensive monoculture tea plantation. 60% of the tea plantation is devoted to semi-natural habitats, so forests, rivers, meadows, and all of these contribute to make biodiversity thrive. So you can see here, and I wonder if someone is able to tell me the name of the animal that we see in the plantation. No? What's the name? No, this one, and after we'll go to the Dan and James, I'm sorry. No. That's not the word in English. I don't know if it's the right
Not
word.
too far off.
Yeah. Yeah, buffalo. And the other one, this strange one, we have approximately the same in Europe. Huh? Not the same haircut, but... No. A deer, yeah. Yes.
Ah, cool. Next one.
Yeah. And at the end, let's have a look to a cocoa plantation in Ivory Coast. So here, with the support of an NGO, small farmers are actively restoring old and abandoned cocoa plantation. This initiative aims to prevent farmers from cultivating in protected forest. So small farmers receive fair compensation in addition to fair trade for their efforts, and both contributing to the restoration of environment and the well-being of community. And you can see it's also a very rich agroforestry system, very dense, mixing trees and different type of cultures.
So I think this shows really that we're already trying to lead the way in a humble way. Let me not be arrogant here, but we're making efforts, we're making steps, working with partners in the field to really move, let's say, beyond organic and focus on different agricultural practices in support of biodiversity. And that starts to show also externally. So this year has also been a year where we started to try to be part of also the global discussions that Dan also referred to, because they're relevant now and we have something to say. We should not shy away from that. We have a position on many of these topics. And we also start to be recognized. There's actually a number of awards that we won. The Sustainable Food Award for Europe, for example, we won that in July. And there was another one from Reuters earlier. We have some local awards, for example, in Germany. And these are some comments that you see here that are coming from the jury panels of those awards. It's not something that I make up, just for the sake of it. And, for example, it can be noted that Ecotone is one of the most advanced B Corps when it comes to commitment to improving biodiversity, is that those are some of amazing comments, of course. We really seem that versus competition, even a lot of big companies participating here, large food companies, and we beat them when it comes to, let's say, some of the programs that we run. Yeah? So I think something also really to acknowledge and to be proud of, yeah? And something you can talk about. Well, then you might ask me, yeah, but Standard, that's all great, but we're still relatively small in size in the global forum. And now I hear all of this news going on regenerative farming, and Danone and Unilever and Oatly, they have all these great programs and they have massive amount of money and they publish and communicate about that. So what is our position then on that actually? Well, let me first and foremost say they're behind, yeah, when it comes to regenerative as such. It is good intentions, but if you look at it's time to regenerate agriculture systems that have been overworked, overused, and depleted. Well, hello, welcome to 2023. That is nothing new anymore, right? We already knew that, and that's why we already started 3 decades ago. These are some of the comments and the generic statements that they just throw out like it's a pint of beer, yeah? So for us, to be truly regenerative, it starts always first with organic. That is the foundation, yeah? And in addition, as Emily has shared, there's a range of agricultural practices that we agree with our farmer cooperatives that we have also included in our position paper that has been released recently online on social media and internally to all of you. And it's very important to take note of that, because that looks very different than what many of the other big companies currently are positioning. If you take the Danones and the Unilevers, they focus on one of the agricultural practices, which often just cover crops, for example. And that's the only thing they do. They still build big monocultures. They still use heavy pesticides. That's not changing. And all of the steps in a direction of better soil and better biodiversity is good. So let us not now try to exclude all those parties. We should continue to have conversations with them if that's relevant to work together. But it is for now mainly good intentions. And you also need to know that we are already moving ahead and are slightly more advanced in this space.
And we always knew that our business was a force for good. But embarking on a B Corp journey was part of proving this. It's showing how we combine performance and purpose to do business differently, and in our case, from the start. From the start, because all our business is about making a positive impact. And we committed to organic and plant-based more than 30 years ago, leading the way to a true sustainable food. In 2019, we achieved a significant milestone by becoming the first and largest European food company to obtain the B Corp certification. So we were really proud of that, because B Corp is quite unique. This is the only one CSR certification to measure the entire impact of the company. It's also the most demanding one. It's really the certification that sets the bar for the highest and social environmental standards. But above all, the B Corp certification is a tool that guides us on a continuous improvement journey. It asks the right questions, it identifies the area of improvement, and defines the good practices to be adopted. In 2022, Ecoton was recertified and became the world's highest scoring global food business, so really with an outstanding score of 116 points, entering the 10 B Corp highest score of the world. So we were really proud of that, and we are still really proud of that, but our journey doesn't end here. In 2025, we will be recertified, and we want to do even better. So together, let's keep pushing forward to make a bigger difference. And we count on you. You are a force for good. You have the ability and you have the influence to drive the change. So it's perfect time to reflect on how you can push further our Food for Biodiversity mission, and what goal would you like to achieve for 2024?
Yeah, and before we go that, because that will come back also in the breakout, I wanted to share indeed some pictures here of ourselves, or some of your colleagues who may not be here, on some great moments. You see there, of course, the fully recyclable packaging on the breakfast cereal that is not too long ago in the Drebber factory. A super great job done. We see Haley here with the rest of the team visiting the tea estates. So we see also more people going into the field and visiting the source of the origin. We see Emma there and Adele together with Thibaut at the One Young World, which is the largest gathering globally where all young leaders of the globe come together. We see Sandrine there in the back on the Diversity and Inclusion Award. That was one, and so forth. So I just wanted to take a few sound bites. Perhaps we can start with Haley, if we have a microphone for Haley, Alexander, just to hear from you, Haley, how you found that experience going to the tea estates in, I think it was Uganda, right, if I remember? Or Rwanda? Rwanda, thank you, yes.
I don't know. No. Hello? Hello? Don't think is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Put me on the spot, Stendhal.
Yes, I know.
I wasn't prepped this was coming. I was lucky enough to go out to Rwanda with Dan and James in July. I think before I went, I didn't really know what to expect, but was told that it would, open my eyes and talk about tea in a totally different way. And I think they were totally right. It really has, I think, to see what is happening on the ground, what it means to be fair trade, to understand, paying that fair trade premium, what that does, not just for people, but for biodiversity, because you can't improve biodiversity if fundamentally you don't improve people's lives on the ground. So that was obviously amazing to see. and like you say, just what the difference of organic farming does in terms of the practices, no chemicals, increasing food crops and biodiversity is just incredible. So yes, highly recommend it. If anyone wants a tip out to a tea plantation, happy to take you on the next one.
Thank you, Haley. And just moving from one person that I put on the spot to the next one, Emma, if you can just share a bit of your perspectives on this participation in the One Young World, and yeah, what you picked up there or what your experience was there.
Am I allowed to say the really memorable bit actually was Bob Geldof spoke there, and it was sponsored by Pepsi, and they did an amazing presentation talking about all the great work they'd done, encouraging women, investing behind women, and feeding the world. And Bob Geldof came on and said, one of the things that really frustrates me is big companies standing up talking total bollocks. I said, they're not feeding the world, they've got crap in a bag, and they're trying to tell you that they're doing the right things. So it was very memorable. What was also very memorable was it was all young people, and actually at some points it felt a bit like you were at a festival. They really resonated with what Bob had said. The Pepsi ones weren't maybe cheering, but the rest of the audience were. Because they were really looking for authenticity and substance behind these organisations. And when we did the session, we did a breakout session, and young people are really knowledgeable on all this stuff. They know, and are really passionate about the need to make the right choices going forward. So I think Adele and I found it a really inspiring session, and it really does give me confidence actually that we are in the right place to make a change, but we also have the consumers of the future want us to do it, and they're educated and inspired by us. So our biggest challenge sometimes is making it commercially viable. That's going to become, I think, in the future more and more easy as the value creation is lifted as it becomes more high profile. So it was a very inspiring conference.
Great, thank you, Emma. And perhaps Christopher, for Drebber, you had this great trial on the fully recyclable packaging. Can you say a few words on how that was like for the team to actually achieve that status? It was a big milestone.
Yes, it was, and it was a long way. We knew from 2019, when we changed the packaging material already, that it gives you, from a manufacturing perspective, a lot of headache, performance-wise. And we together, with the support then from Benoit as well. So we did a lot of trials, really to be sure. We had the machine manufacturers on site to help us in adjusting the machines, telling the team why it is so important, why we do it, and what for we do it. And we are really proud because it seems that we are a bit on the leading side at the moment when I look to other manufacturers, and that it's really nice if you have a pack in the hand and it's 100% recyclable. And that's really something that gives, well, at least to me, it gives something back, and all the effort we put in, and we know, or knowing that it's a little piece, but it's something good. And having done this together is really a good feeling at the end.
Yes, so I think some very proud moments that we can acknowledge, and there's many more. This is only a very small selection. You also know that the CARE Awards are coming up again, and there were quite a lot of nominations coming in again, so for sure in January we will celebrate many of these kind of initiatives which also link to responsibility and our program. Having said that, we wanted to take now a few minutes if there's any questions, comments or reflections before I move to the next stage, because that basically concludes our part, where we try to connect whatever you heard from Dan earlier to our Food for Biodiversity program, and you can see clearly we're in the right spot. If you look at the diversity of ingredients and going above and beyond organic on agricultural practices, among some other key focus areas. But there may be still some questions on clarity, so please feel free to raise your hand, and Alexandra will come to see you. Very good, super clear. And I think people smell coffee or something else. Okay, very good. Then I will not tease you too much, because I know this is always a topic that you need to digest also a little bit. So I want to conclude that part. Thank you, Emily. We'll see you back later.